In the name of the one who loves the beloved and love itself. Amen. Please be seated. So the Greeks have heard about Jesus and they've come up to the festival and they find Philip and they say, "Sir, we want to see Jesus." And Philip finds Andrew and Philip go and find Jesus and they say, "Jesus, we have some Greeks that want to come and see you." And Jesus says, "Oh." Well, he says what he said. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and you've got to lose your life to save it and all of these things. And Andrew and Philip, this doesn't say it in the text, but I'm imagining they went back to the Greeks and said, "Are you sure you want to see him today? He's in one of his moods. Right now it's riddles and like a grain of wheat has to fall into the ground and die. And also you need to lose your life to save it. Do you want to come back on a water into wine day? That might be better." And then I imagine the Greeks pausing and looking at Andrew and Philip and saying, "Do you mean he's saying that there's more to life than this? Is that what he's saying? Because we want to hear that. That's what we want to hear." They wanted to connect with Jesus, the Jesus that they'd heard about. Not necessarily the fun guy with the jokes and the miracles, but the one that had a message that could change their lives, because their lives needed changing. They wanted to connect with the Jesus that was there. I like to imagine. It doesn't tell us exactly what happened next in the text. And the Jesus that was there is articulating a complicated set of ideas. I think he's saying life isn't always easy. The life that you're living, some parts of it might need to die. You might need to let go of them. Are you ready to do that? Some things that aren't fully alive in you need to be brought to life. You need transformation. And I don't know about you, but I want Jesus to have that kind of message. I don't want him to have just jokes and parlor tricks. I want a message that will transform my life. And I'm not offering that message to you today from me. I haven't got all that right. I haven't figured all that out yet. I haven't got it all worked into my life. And neither of you. Jesus is offering that kind of a message. And I want us to discover it together. No one of us have got it all right. But we need to connect with each other to see what questions somebody else is asking, because their question might help me deepen my faith. We need to connect with each other because of all of us have different levels of appreciation of what's going on in this text, and some part of it might speak to one of us in a way that the other one will really appreciate. And I know some of you do connect. You know, there's that kind of connection that happens in coffee hour when we just grab a cup of coffee and chat out in the courtyard. That's not the kind that I'm talking about. I'm saying go a bit deeper. Some of you have joined in our bereavement group. And my goodness, that's a different way to connect. To hear each other's story. To grieve with each other. To recognize in faith that there is hope even in the face of loss. Some of you I know were with Alex on Friday night at the confirmation class where people are preparing to be confirmed, to be reaffirmed, and to be received into the Episcopal Church at the Easter Vigil. And I know they had a difficult conversation about the nature of ecclesiology and the church. Apparently the session went on really long because there were deep questions that people were asking about the nature of our church. They were connecting. They were getting under the surface of the story. You maybe are a Sunday school teacher, or maybe you join one of the musical groups. These are all ways to connect with worship and to connect with each other in a deeper way. These readings are happening today because it's the last Sunday of Lent before Palm Sunday and before we get into Holy Week. So the readings, I don't know if you've noticed, but as we've been going through Lent, they increasingly move towards the idea of what's happening at Easter and how does it work? What is the mystery of salvation? And how does that work? And I'm not going to answer that question today. I've been to seminary. I have some thoughts, but I don't have the complete answer of this immense mystery. But I do know that Jesus is telling us that life might have some difficult parts in it. Some parts of us have to die, for other parts of us to come to life. We need to experience transformation. And there's one way of reading this text, which is to say, well, life is going to be miserable, but you get heaven at the end, so that's great. And that's reductive and unhelpful in my mind. There's another way of listening to what Jesus says. What he's saying is, there are some parts of you right now that are only half alive, and you need to let them go, because I am bringing you something so full of divine life that you might be teeming with divine energy and life. You could be teeming with that life in such a way that when you come to the end of your physical life, it just won't end. It carries on. You could be living that way now. In this season of Lent, the clergy have been reflecting on how we enter into the ministry of inviting, welcoming, and connecting people to each other. And in this reading, the Greeks are asking if they can meet Jesus, if they can connect with him. It's a dangerous question, because if you really connect with Jesus, there might be more there than you're bargaining for. But they want to connect with him because they know he has a message of life that they need. And we've talked about inviting people to church, welcoming them. But I want you also to contemplate what it means to connect. Think about a moment when you've really connected with your faith because you've heard somebody else's questions. Think of a moment when you've really connected with God because you've connected with yourself. Or when in connecting with God, you realize that you can see somebody else's story in a new light. And you've connected with them even more deeply. And once again, it's not that simple conversation that we have in coffee hour, though that's great. It's joining in one of those spaces that we offer very frequently in the life of the cathedral where you can go deeper and ask more meaningful questions and learn about yourself, your connection to yourself, learn about your connection to God, and learn about your connection to each other. The Greeks came to Philip and they said, "We'd like to meet Jesus." Oh gosh, really? Did they know what they were letting themselves in for? You, this morning, are you saying, "Sir, we'd like to meet Jesus"? Really? Do you know what you might be letting yourself in for? I think we should still do it anyway. Amen.